It's time for the 31st film in my 31 Horrors of Mike. Now, last year in 2011, I finished on a vampire movie because I love vampire films. As a kid, vampire movies were probably like my favourite genre of film, and I chose one which was both slightly obscure and also part of the very famous Hammer series. The reason it was obscure was because it didn't actually star Christopher Lee as Dracula, and that was The Brides of Dracula, which I think is a fantastic little film. This year, in 2012, I've decided to end the 31 Horrors of Mike with another vampire film, but this time with possibly the most recognisable horror film ever made, and that's the 1922 movie Nosferatu. Directed by F.W. Murnau, it's a film which is probably recognisable above all others. Even people who don't know of the existence of this film, when they see clips of it, they realise that they've seen bits of it in music videos, other films, and adverts. It's just part of popular culture. The film's visual look has had such an impact on cinema in general. However, this shouldn't be overstated in terms of the fact that really, when we say it's had such a big impact, the school of filmmaking, German Expressionism, which Nosferatu was born out of, in general has created that look, that feel, which has influenced many directors, many filmmakers as time has went on. Nosferatu is loosely based on Bram Stoker's Dracula novel. It surrounds, it follows the story of a count, in this case Count Orlok rather than Dracula, who wants to in some way come to the new world, and he is a vampire. He is a member of the undead, and in Bram Stoker's novel, this is explored to a greater degree in terms through the peripheral characters. We don't have a lot of these characters. We have the kind of Jonathan and Mina Harker characters who Jonathan Harker goes to visit Count Dracula in the beginning of the book, and then realizes that he's a prisoner in this castle, and he's really facilitated Dracula's move to London, to the new world, so to speak, in terms of the way Dracula looks on it. But in Nosferatu, Orlok moves from his castle to a more populated area, but we still have the Mina Harker and Jonathan Harker character for the most part. But once Dracula gets to the populated areas, excuse me, really the film diverges quite quickly away from the novel. So it's a kind of strange film in terms of an adaptation. It was actually not meant to be, although it was an adaptation, it was meant to be a bit of a cheeky adaptation, in that they didn't actually have the film rights to make the book, and Bram Stoker's widow actually sued Prana Films, which was the film company set up to film and distribute Nosferatu, and she successfully sued them. What actually happened was that most of the prints of the film were destroyed, because it was seen as an illegal film, a film which shouldn't have been made, because it was taking someone else's work and making money off of it, which should never have happened. However, in many ways, thank God it did happen, because we get such a fantastic, nightmarish horror film. What makes Nosferatu stand out really is Max Schreck, who plays Count Orlok. The makeup that they used for him has affected monster makeup throughout cinema history. You look at something like Salem's Lot, Salem's Lot, 1979, where they actually the main vampire, they just used the same design. Many depictions of vampires have been influenced by the Max Schreck performance and makeup, and it's one of the most nightmarish performances in cinema history. There is something horribly pathetic about Count Orlok, something plague-ridden about him. He's a wretch, a wraith. In many ways, what's interesting to me, at least, is that there are ideas which are removed from Dracula. For example, in Dracula can turn other people into vampires. That idea is removed from the film. Orlok can't do that. He just kills people. Really, just feeds on their blood. However, the idea of sunlight destroying the vampire, that's really introduced here in Nosferatu, whereas in the novel Dracula, at least in certain places, the light weakens the character rather than actually kills him. So, really, in many ways, as much as this is an adaptation of Dracula, it actually added to the vampire mythos in a way as well, and helped define how Hollywood would then go on later to make vampire films. But it does hinge on Max Schreck's performance as Count Orlok. It's quite terrifying, terrifying to the point that there was a film called I think it's called Shadow of the Vampire, which was released in 2000, and it's got Willem Dafoe in it and John Malkovich, and it's about how Max Schreck was actually a vampire. You know, it's I mean, we know that he wasn't, but you know, it's an interesting idea that they explore in that film. There was also a 1979 follow up or homage or remake in some way by Werner Herzog, who made a version of Nosferatu in 1979. However, I think that not only was it Max Schreck, certainly the direction, which didn't just come from Murnau, it also came from the screenwriter for the film as well. But they were the use of shadows to imply rather than directly show what's creating the shadow. Those moments are just still just as stark and incredible when you watch them. There are other criticisms of the film. Yes, there are. It should probably be looked on more as a flawed masterpiece than a perfect film. There are errors in the film. They were only working with one camera at that time. They didn't have a lot of money to make the film, so what they really achieved is quite startling. The conclusion of the film is perhaps a little bit rushed, and some people won't like it because they'll be used to the Hollywood idea of the vampire, and perhaps there being some sort of confrontation, and we don't really get that in Nosferatu. But then if you look at the 1931 Dracula film made by Universal, you know, Dracula's killed off camera. So I mean, you don't really get the confrontations that we get used to in vampire films until much later. I think that the film in its entirety is still an absolute classic despite some of its flaws. And there will be people who are perfectly within their rights to say that they might not like the style of filmmaking. You know, there are parts in the film where you have people moving around or walking very, you know, slowly in a very sort of cumbersome way, or it's really drawn out, and some people won't like excuse me, some people won't like that sort of filmmaking. Sorry, I'm wheezing here now. I don't know if I'm turning into a vampire. So Nosferatu is just a classic film. It is nightmarish, and much of German expressionism is nightmarish. The strange angles, the strange lighting, it looks as if it's a dream. Again, like I say, there are some problems. If you watch the black and white print of the film, it's pretty obvious that the scenes where Orlok's supposed to be at night is shot during the day. The film was originally intended to be tinted in certain ways, and you can get versions of the film which are tinted the way that the director originally wanted. It's a curious film, you know. It's a curious film. It's a film that should never have been, because it was, and I'm the first to say I can't stand plagiarism, and this is plagiarism. But at the same time, you have to absolutely just be in awe of what they achieved for the time. Are there other silent films that are made better than Nosferatu? Yes, there are actually, but um, Nosferatu and its legacy is still just one of the most important horror films ever made. Not only that, it's still incredibly effective. Now, you may not have ever watched a silent film before. My advice would be Nosferatu is, you know, a must-watch for a horror fan, even if you're not into silent cinema. Some of the greatest films ever made were made in the silent era. So, uh, if you do have that prejudice against silent movies, try to put it aside and just suspend your disbelief and go with the story and enjoy it. So that's Nosferatu. I hope you all enjoyed the 31 Horrors of Mike. I really enjoyed making these. I'm just sorry that in certain places I had to upload in bulk rather than daily because I was ill and well, you all know that. I've been complaining about it long enough. So so this is really, I mean, I've just done, I don't know, about 6 or 7 reviews in a row to make sure that I had this done, so I think my voice is actually failing now. But yeah, I've really loved doing these, and I know there were people who requested films, and I did intend to put them, for example, like Deep Red was one of the films I was going to put in because it was requested. But those films that were requested, I didn't manage to get into the list because I didn't get time to go over them again. I will do those reviews soon, so that's my promise. Anyway, so that will be all for now, and I'll probably be back in the next couple of days, getting back into just doing movie news and more in-depth reviews probably. But thanks again. If you've watched all of these, I really appreciate it. I think it's fantastic that people take the time to watch my videos. I don't know why you would, but it's really a nice feeling that some of you do. So take care. Have a great Halloween. It is, after all, the best time of the year, unless you like Christmas. And I will speak to you all soon. Bye for now.